Hello and welcome to another episode of Britain's Hidden History. My new funky t-shirt just arrived minutes ago through the post. Britain's Hidden History wants you. Here, there's Alan Wilson. So a bit of fun. These are available from the shop. And today we've got Mr. Robert Langdon, very kindly, has come back again.
Morning, Ross.
Good morning, Robert. Good morning. And I'm very, very pleased and excited because one the video we put up a couple of weeks ago was where Robert was talking about the fact that the dikes actually form ancient canals to link the rivers together. And if you look at Britain and most of Europe as well, definitely Germany, France, you can see the major rivers linked by this canal system, which is amazing. And all this ties in with higher water levels and hydrology and stuff, which I didn't really understand last time. And what we did get, so I was going to show a question first, okay? It's I have just, oh, hang on a second. This is where I have to get the hang of the screen share again. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to do, right, here we go. Can you see that?
We can.
Excellent. Right, so a couple of nice questions. There's a particular dike in that which we can look up. So thank you, Mandy, for that one. And then, I don't know if the Archimedes, does the Archimedes screw come into this at all, Robert?
It probably does. I have to be honest.
Not the main part of it.
When you got water at certain heights, and if you want to obviously divert water into other channels, then obviously Archimedes screw is obviously a quite an easy option. To be honest, I think it's probably invented at a much later date because, as I will explain later, water levels at the time of the construction of the canals was much higher than today.
So and that.
They wouldn't need it, absolutely.
Okay, well, but all right, so great. So I'll let Robert go through all this, and just to give something to sort of get the ball rolling, as it were. This is from Bob Morgan. I'm going to get this right. Hang on, it's the Wandlebury Dyke, isn't it? Is that the proper name? Wansdyke, sorry, the Wansdyke. So what Bob Morgan was saying there, he's a big fan of your work, by the way, Bob. I think he's bought all your books. So so there we are. So don't take this. This isn't like an attacker. This is sort of like saying, I love your work. It's full of cool stuff, but I do not understand. I don't get this because if you look at the Wansdyke, it's got here's the elevations. It goes down, back down, and really up quite steeply. So his question, I'm sure you get this every time you present this, is that well, the water's going to go up and down hills, and so do the boats. If you blinking hard work, dragging.
How can water go up and down hills?
How can water go uphill?
How can water define gravity? That's what your main question.
That's the first basic thing, because I mean the first one of those. I mean, I have to say, in the whole world of science, history, and everything else, I'm desperately trying to find something which we can accept might actually be right, you know, something to cling to. And water going generally downhill or finding a level was the last thing left.
It's what I call school. It's called schoolboy. It's called schoolboy science. It's what you do at school. You have lots of test tubes and you got lots of Bunsen burners and flasks and play with water. And you go, oh look, gravity, water, gravity, and water has its own level, and therefore you naturally think that's what happens in nature. And what we'll look at today will
I think this is amazing. That. All right, I'll let you jump into your... Just give people an idea. Bob has very kindly sent me this picture. Bob Morgan, who's one of our regular researchers, to the Sutton Hoo, all that. I've got some more things coming up. I mean, this is proper steep, to use a bit of London. Proper steep, mate. This is proper steep.
Proper steep.
But that gives you a good picture there, anyway, to give you an idea, just before we start, on just people in their minds to think, does this look military or does this look... I have to say, I don't understand how water goes up and down hills either, but just first glance, it does seem to look like a river, doesn't it? The way it's cut there. But I shall let you crack on. I think it's probably the best. So there you go. There's the elevations.
More up and downs.
So the background, what I'm trying to get, what we're trying to throw at Bob here, that's why I need to unshare now. Oh my goodness. Is that, please explain to us, you know, how we can have
water going uphill.
How can that possibly be a canal? Yes. So right, over to you, sir. The floor is yours.
I shall give it a credit. Just if anything gets too common, I have to at the start. This isn't simple. If it was simple, archaeologists will understand it. Archaeologists don't understand it. I'm sorry. You know, I
think you're being generous.
I know lots of archaeologists. I've known most of them. But hydrology as a science is very, very unknown. And so what I'll do today, I'll try as best as possible. I'm doing very simple 101. It's much, much more complicated than I'm going to tell you, because if I get into the statistics of it, it'll just blow your mind. So let's go through.
Okay, if I start doing this, it means I like to just stop for time out for a second so I can ask you a question, okay?
Absolutely.
After that, I shall leave you to it. And I shall get rid of this
you
phone.
keep asking your... You keep on.
Go away. Sorry, I'll turn my phone off. I do apologise.
You can edit that bit out.
Well, the whole thing's going today. There we are. Lumps and all. Right, off we go.
Okay, quick hydraulic 101. If there's any spelling mistake, I do apologise. It was done very late last night, because I thought, as a verbal explanation, it will take too long. So I'm trying to do this very simple and simple graphics. So Schoolboy model. This is what everybody sees at school. You probably notice it. Go, wow!
I know this one. Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah, know this one. And we'll look at it, and I'll show you why they believe the model is like this, and then I'll tell you why it's the biggest load of old rubbish you've ever seen in your life.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
Right. So you've got the rain comes down here and fills this lovely, wonderful, almost like a test tube, isn't it, my friend? Test tube full of water, and you go, I can understand test tube full of water, okay. And so we look at the first one, the artesian well. Now, artesian wells are the biggest and most confusing aspects of geology or hydrology, because they are unbelievably powerful. The head there is roughly about normally between 10 and 60 pounds per square inch, twice the power of your car tire. Okay, we're not talking about a little bit of power. We're putting massive amount of power coming up. So they go, well, how can you have all this water gushing out? And remember, there's an artesian well that feeds Bath. So it's been going for a few thousand years at least, yeah? So where's all that power come from? And they go, simple fluid dynamics. That's the height of the water table. That's in the valley. So the water comes down and rushes out the top. Fine. But it doesn't. Because it does. But that means this water table will have to be replenished. As much as that water coming out must go in there. Otherwise, that just goes down, 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 and it switch off.
Otherwise, it's going to level out at some point, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. But the reason I put this graphic, there's lots of graphics like this, is you see the line, they've made it, it's not actually quite straight. They made it, brought it down a little bit.
Trying
to explain the unexplainable. Because, okay, we've got that. It's all that power, high water table. We do another artesian well here, and the water is, it's down here. Well, here come that's because this level here, that's higher, and that one's lower. So you can have an you can have an artesian well, or any old well really, and it won't gush out the top. And you go, okay. And then you got the normal well. We forget about this perch table well because it gets even more confusing. Then you get the normal well. The one you dig in your back garden, it goes down a few feet and it goes to the water. And this is the wells you would have in like the Middle Ages, feed the town. Yeah. Nice and simple, easy model. What can be wrong?
Sorry, with the water table well, that's one you'd have to drop the buckets down to bring the water up, yeah?
Yes, it.
Yeah, so it's not going to come to the surface. Okay.
Yeah, the medieval towns would have had these what's called a water table well. These are very deep. You need a drill to get down there. Yeah, these ones here is what you drink. At the moment, I had a friend that worked for Essex Water, and he used to drill boreholes into the chalk to take out the water, and that's what your tap water is from this aquifer here. Okay, not this one, because that's poisonous. Because what's happened over the years, all the farmers have been, spraying their DDT. Remember the DDT chemicals and that, and that's all now polluted water. Even even not very drinkable unless you put a ton of chemicals in it. This one here is fresh water, and it comes from aquifers, which are about 200 meters down. And that's what you drink at your tap, because water companies dig holes now, rather than filter the water, which they used to, and then recycle, which they used to. Now what happens, because it's cheaper, private company, they dig a big hole, they take out the water, they fill it full of chlorine, and you drink it. Not particularly healthy, I have to be honest, but that is the modern day. This is what we do. And so all the water you're drinking is from here. So that's the basic model. But now I'll show you why it's wrong. Now, if we go back, see this, the reason this model could possibly work, which is logical, is this barrier you've got here. See this
it has
barrier?
to be watertight, yeah.
It has to be watertight. It has to be thick. Remember, this water here is 60 psi. Yeah, it's unbelievably powerful, pushing against this rock. So this will have to be unbelievably watertight. It will have to be thick, watertight for this model to work. This is the South Downs. This is a picture of that watertight model. And you probably notice it's got holes all the way through it. Some of it's thick, yeah. That's thick. That would stop water.
Explain quickly what the different colours are, please.
Yeah, that tells you the thickness of the soil. This is meters above OD. So you've got the thickness. So that's really thick, and that will separate. That one is 0 to 5. That won't stop anything. You know, if you've got 60 psi, it'll go through. The interesting aspect,
it's sandy or something. Is that what you mean? What does 0 to 5 mean? It's just loose soil or something.
It's the thickness. It's the level of soil, the thickness of the soil. The greater the thickness, the less
depth of soil, or
it's probably clay-like.
Right, okay, right. So it's more dense.
More dense. It has to be thick, and it's trying to stop the water. This is the water barrier you've got here. Two things. One, it's not thin enough. So it's not thick enough to do it. And two, it can go around the edges. It's water, for God's sake. It's not, you would have to have this throughout the entire UK for it to stop. I mean, it's a you go back. It's a great lab experiment, but it's simplistic nonsense. It doesn't work, and you go, okay, well, let's okay, well, you say that, but can you prove it? No. When we went back, remember we had this recharge. Remember, we have to keep this water level up to a particular height, otherwise the artesian well can't flow. Yeah. Because
that's like a siphoning effect they're using there, isn't it?
They're using the simple Schoolboy siphon effect. Absolutely, it's a test tube. What you do with a bowl of water, bowl of water, suck the water out, and you get this siphon effect. Yeah. But it's not exactly 60 psi, but let's look at. We'll go back to that in a minute. So this barrier is useless. Okay, fine, but is the model still feasible? So this is a fascinating piece to look at. This shows you we can actually age the water we drink. I think that's a marvelous fact, don't you? You can actually see how old the water is. Now, this is the mean age. So, first 10 meters, 6 years. Yeah, it's like rainfall. Next 6 years, 10 years. Now we get into farming. So, I said that the water's now polluted. We're getting down to 100 meters. That's 300 years old, that water. And that's why the aquifers now are starting to get poisoned, because that's roughly when we started to put chemicals on farmlands, and that bad water is now getting into the water table.
It's now filtered down, right?
It's all filtered out. But what is the most fascinating thing, and this is quite new to me, and it's I can use this for my theory, is down here. From 200 meters, this is where when you bore into that secondary part, the lower part is 200 meters plus. The water there is over 12,000 years old. Okay, and it's not a little bit of water. If you look at how much water, you add them all together, this is the last ice age. This is the last ice age. The water you drink at your tap is from the last ice age. Okay, the meltwater from the last ice age you drink every day, and is about 1 million square kilometers on this. I don't know where this is. We don't do very good geology in England. If you're doing some research, you have to go to America, you have to go to other countries, because
so just one quick one. I noticed there's a big jump. If you go to 200 meters, it's suddenly 3,000 years old, and then suddenly it's 12,000. It's a 9,000 year gap there, isn't it?
There is, and I'll explain that in a tick.
Okay.
I'll explain it. But yes, I'm glad you point, because that's really interesting. You're saying, well, water was up to the last 3,000 years, say, just over 3,000 years. We've been replenishing the water supply. We got that, but it stops. It's not a great. It stops, and at the time of the ice age, the greater amount of water, because that's 1 million cubic meters there, against all that is about 300. So it's only about a third. Most of it is actually from the ice age, which is fine. If these aquifers, remember this, yeah? If that's being replenished at a constant rate, which they're saying that's the only thing to keep the artesian wells going, there's a gap of 6,000 years between the ice age and what's coming down now. This water will never reach this, because this water is the yellow, basically, or perhaps down to about the bottom of this one here. That's about 100 meters. This is 200 meters. None of this water has ever been replenished by any rainfall in the last 10,000 years. It never reaches there, because otherwise this water wouldn't be 12,000 years old, it'd be less. This water is 12,000 years plus.
Do you know how they date the water?
Sorry?
Do you know how they date the water? How they know it's so old? Or
it's carbon dated.
Okay.
Would you believe? You can carbon date the water. There's also silicon content. There's 2 or 3 other things you can do.
Oh, I don't want to sidetrack it too much. It's just curious.
I would say it does get very complicated when you start looking at all aspects of hydrology.
All right, okay, yeah. All right, don't get to that too much then, yeah.
Yeah, but trust me, these are actually very accurate, very good. But it shows you that model we saw in the past, this model here, is rubbish, because you've had no recharge area. And look at it's so small. For
years, yeah.
For thousands of years. So this water should have gone down by now, and the artesian wells should have all stopped by now, but they haven't. Why is that? And I tell you, it's the ice age. That's why. We're back to my theory of flooded Britain. This is a representation of the weight of ice, and you have to. I had to write a book about this. 10 years on for the theory, because so many people were asking questions. That's why I wrote the book about it. 10 years on, people kept saying there's not enough water in the rocks to have your theory about flooded Britain and all that business. It's nonsense. There's so much water underneath the surface. It's immense. Well, I'll come to that in a minute. But what I want to have a look at this illustration is why there's all that water in the surface underneath. And that's because the weight of the ice is 8.4 trillion tons. More. That's so much more than you could even possibly contemplate.
Yeah.
I've worked out that if Ross was standing underneath here,
that wouldn't be a good place to be standing, but go on. Yeah.
Would be a good place to stay, but if he was there by accident and the ice age occurred, Ross would be now spread over 100 square miles.
Thanks.
And you will be one molecule thick. I'm sure
there's quite a few people would quite like that, but there you go.
Yeah, you'll be thinner than your T-shirt, Ross.
my new plastic. It's very thick, 100% cotton, I might add. But go on, yes.
Now, what's recently what we've realised, and which the old geologists, and the problem we have in archaeology is that we have all these old, dated archaeology books, not like geology books, and they're rubbish, and they're really
these subjects. Rubbish. We got such veneration for these Victorian gentlemen who just basically.
Absolutely. It's more of a club rather than a.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
Yes, we got to start being more prepared to tear these things up. Go for it. Anyway, carry on. Yes.
But what we found fascinating. I mean, I'd say it's a series in itself. What we found on top of these ice sheets, and if you go to Greenland, we find rivers. Very much like and looking like the rivers we have. They have these rivers running through. We've got lakes on top of them. Looks just like the surface of the planet. And what they realise is all these rivers actually flow down to the riverbed because that's what water does. It finds its gravity. This is where gravity does come in. And it pushes all the water to the bottom. So what happens at the bottom here? Well, that is so large. It squashes the water into the rock. Now, rocks are got little crevices in, and what happens? All this water gets forced. 842 quadrillion pounds of force gets pushed into the rock. Yeah,
right.
And you can imagine what happens after this is 100,000 years of pushing. Yeah, 100,000 years. The time periods are immense. What happens when it all goes? Well, the natural thing, it all comes up again. Because why? Because you've pushed down all that hydraulics. You've pushed down. If anybody wants to, jack up their car, they know they use water or oil hydraulics. You pump it down, and it pumps it back up again. It's nice piece of schoolboy science is for every action there's an opposite and equal reaction. It's Newton. No one argues against that. Yeah. No one talks about that too much in geology. Apart from they call it isostatic movement. They know that we rebound. The Earth's rebounds at about 3 or 4 millimeters a year. It rebounds back from the ice age. The amount of energy that's released to do that is immense, and no one calculates it, and no one looks at it. You just say it just happens, and you go, it must have another consequence, surely. And one of the best graphics, and I say you have to go to America. It's not one of these for England at all, although it's happened in England. We did have an ice sheet on top of us. If you look at this is the Hudson. This is the cross section you got here. Well, this is the ice cap going lower. They've calculated that the Hudson Bay, because of this massive pressure, was pushed down over. Yeah, I mean the ice age started to actually finish about 30,000 BC. So we're looking about 100 meters. 1,000 meters below the current level. The entire Britain would have been at least 700-800 meters lower in the Earth's surface at the ice age than today because of the pressure of 8.42 trillion tons pushing down it. Now, to me, as a scientist or an engineer, you go, wow, that must have had other consequences, not just if the land's moving up, what's happening to the water, all that water which is inside the Earth? And is there a lot of water inside the Earth? I mean, a lot of it will depend how much water have you got there, how much water was pushed down. I calculated that, well, it is in the book, and I won't go into that now. There's another interesting graphic coming up. But there was a massive amount of water pushed down into the surface of the Earth. So this is a good graphic on it. we get to know we've got lakes. Is that lakes, rivers? Look at a little bit on top. Rivers, swamps, lakes. That's just 0.3%. There's a little bit top there, yeah, of the fresh water. The rest of it, 100 times more water than you will see on the surface of this earth is under the ground. Why? Because you had 8.2 trillion tons pushing it down into the ground. Forget the ice caps, that's fine. But you'll see this is it's a massive amount of water. Massive, 100 times more under the surface than is on top. And this is what people need to understand. We sit on this bed of water, massive water. And this massive water is under immense pressure. And we can see that, hopefully, the next one. Because this is someone drilling, and we've seen this with oil. And oil is exactly the same thing. If you drill through into deep, and depending on how far you drill down, the more you drill down, the greater the pressure. Okay, that's why oil rigs blow up. Sometimes they hit a gas pocket, sometimes they hit a water pocket, as you see here. And that takes the rig out, because you're talking about not, 60 pounds per square inch. You're talking about a couple of £1,000 per square inch. Wow. Takes out the rig completely. Now that, and as you look around, remember, this is someone drilling into probably about 200 meters into the surface. If you look behind it, no, there's no hills there, my friend, to push the water. Remember the model? That's because the hills are pushing the water down. You go, well, that looks like it's in the middle of the desert, and that looks like a lot of water.
Yeah. Most of these deserts are very flat, aren't they? Texas and where I used to live in Abu Dhabi and places like that, they're very flat.
Our concept of hydrology is rubbish. It's not even remotely accurate. The geologists don't understand it. The archaeologists certainly don't understand it. Yeah, and this is why our history is confused, because we don't understand what the landscape of the past looked like. And if you don't understand that, you can't even do the basics, to be honest. Right. So that's the pressure, huge pressure. Now, one of the questions was, can water defying gravity go uphill? Yeah. And really takes me. I thought, I need to look at that. It's a really interesting. I'm always a scientist. Let's get a scientific question. Let's look at capillary action, because that's what happened. This water gets pushed into the capillaries of the rocks under pressure. Now, this is a classic school, capillary action. You've got some that surround the rock, making it damp. You've got some that fill in the gaps, and then you've got the gravitational water. This is the classic. Yeah, there's water in between the rocks, but it's the act of gravity that makes it go down. Never, ever, ever. Capillary action can never, ever, ever go up, according to their science. Unless, of course, you build a brick wall. And I don't know any house in the country that doesn't suffer, particularly in Wales here, where they don't have damp courses.
Yeah. Well, it's called rising damp. It rises, isn't it? Rising
no,
damp.
It can't. No. Don't remember that one. Water has to go down. It can't go up. It's defying gravity. That can't happen. So all that damp in all those houses is your imagination. It doesn't happen, because the science of hydrology and geology says water goes down, not up. And capillary action isn't a science in itself, which actually defies gravity. Well, what I like is that they understand this is nonsense, but they go, the energy comes from evaporation. The evaporation forces it. You go, no, what's forcing it up is down here, because as we just saw, water underground is under pressure, and it pushes it, and it's a little bit, it's a little bit like, the best way of looking at it is like gravity. Gravity is what's known as a weak force. And what do people mean by that? It means that you or I not the strongest people in the world, could throw a ball in the air, and you've defied gravity. Well done. But at the same time, gravity is so large that it can bring down a jumbo jet on your head. It's very confusing. How can I defy gravity, but a jumbo jet will come down and land on my head? It's what's known as a weak force. It's one of those things in science which still needs a lot more explanation. Gravity is very much unknown. Water.
Yeah, don't know why it is even, yeah. Well, what causes it? Yeah.
Water is unknown. What people must understand when we're getting back to the question, how can water flow uphill, is that at the end of the day, water is quite a unique substance, particularly if it's under pressure. I can't remember what we got. We're coming back. And I thought I'd give you an example. This is, again, we're going back to the basic model because there isn't any very good models at the moment. If I turn around and say, okay, let's take the existing model. Let's not even believe Robert. Robert's talking nonsense because he's an idiot. Let's say we take the existing model here and I dig a well here, yeah? It will fill up and no one's going to disagree. It's going to fill up to water to there, yeah? If I dig another one, this is higher up, it's going to fill up to water to there. If I dig one across, you get another one filling up with water, and you dig up, there's another one for water. But what if I join them all together? What happens then? Does it all run away? You go, no, it's going to keep the same height because it has to keep up the same height. You dig another one down here, yeah. If you join them all together, the water's not going to all drain away down. The pressure here is so great that it will constantly refill that, like an artesian well. It's going to constantly. So the water may, and I don't think we'll talk about it in a bit, it may seem to sort of float downhill, but at the end of the day, it won't all drain away because it's constantly being replenished. And what people need to understand with rivers are constantly being replenished. If there's a dry season, it may go down, but it never stops. Why does it never stop? I remember the summer I was around in 76, the hottest summer in history. And I remember going down to the Thames thinking it's going to be dried up. I can go down and do a bit of mudlarking and get some stuff. So disappointed when the river was still, it was low, but it's still flowing. And that was after 6 months of no rain. And you go, oh, that's disappointing. I thought I could get down to see some ancient, galleons that sunk in the middle of the Thames. The river will constantly go. Doesn't matter how much rain it has, because it's being fed by the water pressure under the earth, pushing up. And that's why rivers are quite unique. Under the river is a vein of groundwater which feeds the river constantly. And you get that in some illustrations at school they don't discuss it. They just put an arrow saying water's going that way. And you go, how come? But they won't tell you this water is under extreme pressure and it's moving up and it's moving back. And this is why we get isostatic oscillation with the surface of the earth going up. We measure that. But if that's going up, so's the water. The water's going up as well. It has to. It's force reaction. So what would happen? To.
Sorry, can I say? So if we did join up those four wells, would that mean that we'd create an artificial river? I mean, would there be a flow of water, or would it be static water between them?
That's exactly right. People when they look, there's a difference between a canal and a river. A river will flow because it goes into the sea. It's got somewhere to go. A canal is static. It's flat. It's like a pond. Now, you may get some gravitational flow going down because gravity depends how deep it is, will have some effect on it. That's fine. But to be honest, when you got all these constant pieces of pressure coming on, it would probably be more like a canal. When the canal gates are shut, it doesn't go anywhere, does it?
Yeah, but the water can't be on a slope, can it?
Well, it
This is what I'm
can.
trying to get my head around. Go on, yeah.
Yeah, it can if it's constantly being fed. If you've got water coming out here, it will stay at that height. It won't go any lower. It can't, because that's the water level. It will always stay at the water level. So that bit of water may have gone down that way, but there's another bit of water to replace it.
So that means you would have a flow. It wouldn't be
Yeah, there may be a slight, but it's not. I don't think. But when people say it's not going to be like the River Thames, yeah, I don't think these canals. These canals were built not to sort of go sailing down like a river. Parts of them will be. We'll look at that later. Parts of them will be the river, and there'll be a natural river. But these are connections between rivers.
Okay.
They built these to connect the rivers together. So, and one of the very important aspects of it, and to show that, is how they're constructed.
Yes, please, yes.
Because they've got a mound on one side, and you go, why have you got a mound on one side? Because what they will do is attach their boat to a mule or a donkey or some sort of animal, and they will drag it through. So all you need to be underneath you is water rather than soil, yeah? And you can move it across. And this is when you go up the hill. I don't expect them to sail up hills. What you do, you've got to the bottom of the hill, and you'll get out your boat. You get your mule out, and they'll drag it up. Oh, use my finger. You'll get the mule out, and you drag it up to the top there. Then you get back in your boat, and it's flat again, and you go off.
Okay, so on that steep part of the slope, would it be a series of wells, effectively? Then, I mean, how? Oh, well, you show that how it's actually the canal works then, or the dike.
I mean, and to show this is universal. I've got a nice little graphic next one. But this is one's dike. You like one's dike, don't you?
Oh, I see. So it's a series of wells. That's what I'm trying to say. Be a series.
That's what you got here. And this is
right. That makes sense now. It's the gaps between the wells didn't make sense. But you make those gaps very small.
Like
so the water's only moving a short distance.
If you join that up, yeah, you took away all those little wells, yeah. What do you get? You get this. This is in the desert. This is in the desert. And look at how it's the design is, to me, the more interesting. Look how it's designed. It's not straight line. These are not straight lines. Look at the design. It's following the river course under the ground. And you have to remember that this is what they teach you. That model you have of water underground is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Under the ground, you have tributaries and branches and the interesting fact, you need to know where they are. And if you get someone who's got a nice divining rod, that's the easiest way to do it, because what they pick up is the flow of water. It's pure science. You've got electricity because the water is flowing, and they can tell, and they follow the flow. And in that flow of water, you can put your wells. And if you join your wells together, you've got yourself a canal.
It says there that's an ancient Persian water supply on the right. You're just reading the graphic.
Yes, yeah. I mean, there's a commonplace. I mean, it's not one. There's loads of them. This was when you start looking worldwide, which you have to do. You know, we're too British eccentric. When you start looking at the geology of America, which I've had to do, and geology of other countries, who actually are much more open-minded when it comes to hydrology, you see other things. You go, actually, we've got that in this country. We just don't recognise it. And so you've got the Wands Dyke. To me, is a series. You could have loads of little pits if you wanted to, but you join them together. You've got yourself a canal which the water joins itself. This is repeated elsewhere. Well, I mean, these veins. I call them veins, and I think the last graphic's coming up, because you go, okay, is there a way of actually seeing these veins under the ground? Because obviously, you know, you've seen the graphics, the best graphics I've got. Pretty naff, you know, the little bit of North Downs. Is there a way of actually? Wouldn't it be great to have an X-ray machine that could actually look under the ground, so we actually know what it looks like. And here's one. This is the mountains of this is the mountains of the Sahara Desert. It hasn't rained here for 10,000 years. It used to be, like Britain, a green, lush patch. What's happened here on the right-hand side? The left-hand side shows that's the mountain. It's all dried up, obviously. The winds have come in and they've cut away at the top side. It's all been blown away. And underneath, what you're seeing is the veins of water which used to be under the ground. And look at them. They're just like rivers. And it's, it's not rocket science to say, do you think under the ground, the exactly same sort of format as the river above the ground, there are veins of groundwater? And the answer is yes. Why? Because the only reason a river is formed is when it touches the surface of the earth, it creates what's known as a spring. We know springs. Springs come out of the floor.
Yeah.
And we know the springs come out, and they come out with force because there's water pressure. And then the spring turns into a river, which means underneath that river, you've constantly got this spring renewing. So under the ground there, you've got the spring. If we're clever enough and the surface are and the water table is high enough, because what we again have to remember, these canals were built thousands of years ago. You can't do it today. We always think, well, if you could do it today, then it proves it. And you go, well, the groundwater has shrunk for 10,000 years, like it or not. Water table's going down. And therefore, but if at the time we could find those veins you see there and you dig a little well, you'll get a spring. And at the time of the construction of these canals, you would only have to go down a couple of meters, you hit the spring. Now you have to go down 30 meters. But that's the difference.
But it still might be possible. And you just have to do it a bit. You have to cut the down first and then make your holes, perhaps.
And it also answers the question. I remember reading in the South Downs, there was this village who wanted a new water supply, so they dug a well. And it ended up being the biggest well in the South Downs. It ended up being 250, I think, feet or maybe meters down, and they still couldn't find any water. And so I think they abandoned the village.
They missed the vein.
Precisely. Someone moved it 10 yards to the right, went down 30 meters, and got all the water they wanted. And they didn't understand why, because they have this model of that water table you saw on that Schoolboy.
Big leak, yes. With you just floating on top of it somehow, yes. You've
missed the vein. And I was really quite interested in talking to my friend who deals with this every day, digging well. I said, so where do you dig then? Oh, well, we've got these maps. And I said, how accurate? They go, it's a little bit hit and miss, to be honest, Bob.
Let's have a go, yeah.
They, even with their this is a multi-million-pound company, they haven't got that map there. And you think they have that map there you see in front of you, of the South Downs or whatever, you could hit the vein. It's a little bit like you're right. You think about it.
Yeah.
If you put a little hole in your hand, in your palm, it bleed because of the pressure, but it's only a little bit. If you stick that same hole in your artery, it will squirt up to the ceiling.
Oh, I have actually done that by accident. Yes,
there you go.
Yes.
So
big
when you
scar
say
here somewhere, and it literally was reaching the ceiling. Oh, there it was, right there.
So the logic of water can't run downhill.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really good point. Yeah, because sorry to jump in, but you bang on, because I've had lots of cuts and whatever, and it just trickles out. But that one time where I was trying to mess about with some glass, and I hit a vein here, that whoosh. It was going feet up in the air, that was awful.
That blood is defying gravity. It's going in the air.
You're right. Actually, it was. You're right.
The little pinprick on your thumb defies gravity. It's coming out. This is why you look at these canals. And I don't look at them as rivers. If you look at them as rivers, it's going to confuse. I think
misleading. Yeah, it's more like veins, aren't they? Yeah.
These are veins of pressure under the surface, and if you can tap into it, you'll get water. And one of the big, you know, we had we have this pothole thing. I find it, because I find this everywhere. I mean, one of the big questions, going back to my pet project, Stonehenge, the ditch around Stonehenge, you go, no one talks about it. Why don't you talk about the ditch? I mean, it's one of the most, you date the ditch, but you don't talk about it. One of the interesting things about the ditch about Stonehenge, it's not a ditch. It's a series of pits dug 2 meters down. Series of pits, and there's walls in between. Why is that? Well, they're hunting for water. They dug a pit. It hits water. It drives up because of the pressure, and it fills it and becomes a moat. Now, you know, if it was just a symbol of whatever they say of, I don't know, mumbo jumbo, you know, it's symbolic. You go, fine.
Yeah, everything's religious, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you dig all these little pits? Why didn't you just put a nice little round, you know, hole in the ground, a meter deep? That's all you need. Why have you dug all these individual 2 meter pits? And that's because they're searching for the water. And the interesting aspect, it's not even. One side of Stonehenge, they only had to go down 1.5 meters. On the other side of Stonehenge, they only had to go down, 2 meters. And then if you looked at the water table of Stonehenge, which I have, it's higher on one side than the other. And you go,
right.
Yeah, precisely. You go, and in the past, it was much higher, and therefore, but still at that angle. So
it'd be great to try it, wouldn't it? You know, I just wouldn't it be great to dig down deep and then
and this is the thing.
It's the same thing. You just have to be deeper, wouldn't you? Surely
it is. And the thing you have to remember, the water isn't flat. It's because it's under pressure and it's pushing against a hard rock. It conforms to the contours of the environment. So when you go up the hill, at the top of the hill, the water table is still only, say, 30 meters below as it is at the bottom, because the water follows the contours. Yep. Now, the logic is, does that water, because it's in the capillaries, does it go up or down? Is that going uphill or downhill? Well, it doesn't. It's neither up or down. It's just there. It's in stasis. Like your
Amazing.
Body. Yeah.
Amazing.
So when you're looking at the hydrology of the thing, you have to take that into consideration. And this is, I think I sent this. This is just to show that actually, in some respects, it does go uphill, even if it only in little bits. But this is the Thames.
That's the Thames, yeah.
And you can see this part there. Now, I can actually show you.
So the bottom graph is the elevation, is it?
This is the elevation, and you can see it goes up and down all the time.
So that's showing. So is this the surface of the water, or the surface of that would be the bed of the river, is it? Or
this is following this is the surface of because the guy. This is not my map. This is the
that's the
London,
surface of the water.
This is the surface of the water.
So the water actually does go up.
It does go up there. This is not. This is you can get a copy of this. This is I'll send them to you if you want. But this is the Thames path. To be honest, I would love to sit there and do the dots for the entire Thames, but it's going to take me more than 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah. Don't worry. No, sorry. I'm just curious what they're showing you. That's all. Yeah.
But I thought I wasn't satisfied. So I didn't think you'd be satisfied either, Ross. So what I did, because I'm like this,
you have built a canal in your garden, which you're now going to walk out and demonstrate. Now that, fair play, Robert, is impressive.
This is the Thames.
Okay.
I thought I do all my archaeology on Google Earth. I'm on the biggest Google Earth thing you can go. And this is a small section. This is at the start. And as you see at the bottom here, you can see this little peak. And can you see where it is on the map?
Oh, that's very clever. The graph matches up with your track. Oh, very snazzy.
That's why I love to. And then it goes on to London. But
I am impressed.
Even the Thames technically goes uphill, and that's gone from 83 meters to 89. So that's gone up 6 meters, 20 foot. That went up 20 foot, and down again.
You never notice that, do you? You never think we're going uphill on a river.
So rivers do go uphill.
Oh, that's awesome.
which I thought was something you would like as my last graphic.
I do. I love that. I love that. That is fantastic. That's mind blowing, really. So, do you know where that is? Where this uphill place is? Where are we? Do you reckon?
Is
it Berkshire or something? Would it be, or
this is Cricklade. Cricklade, sorry.
Oh, near Oxford, perhaps. Just down from Oxford, it says.
It's at the start. It's at the start. This is from the source. The source of the Thames is.
Yeah, I think it says near Oxford. There we are. So Cricklade to Oxford. So it's that kind of area. Just to get over.
Here we go. We go back a bit.
Oh wow! Look at this high tech. This is
high tech stuff.
My mind is thoroughly blown by this idea. I have to say.
and
it's got so many elements I love. Water going uphill and canals, and I love the dikes being canals. I mean, I've been looking at that. I've been really looking forward to this chat. I think it's fascinating.
Well, if you want to do,
it makes such sense. You know, it really does.
If you want to do, I don't know how long you want to do these videos. But if you want to do part 2, I will walk you through Offa's Dyke.
Oh yes, definitely.
Using Google Earth, I will walk you through Offa's Dyke.
Oh,
and
please.
I will prove several things. The date is wrong. The reason they built it is wrong. In fact, everything they tell you in the books is complete and utter garbage.
Fantastic. Well, we'll do that in the next one. Absolutely. Oh, that is just awesome. Thank you very much. I mean, that's brilliant.
Well, hopefully that has answered some of the questions. I can go into more detail, but I would have to say.
Well, the main one's how do you get water on a slope?
Buy the book.
Buy the book. Yeah. Buy the book. Yeah, I'll be putting the links to your prehistoric history website and the stuff you can get there.
But what I'll do, I'll send you a copy of the slides so you can put it up with the and this KML so you can have a look at that as well.
I think it's awesome. Thank you very much. Brilliant. There we are. Stop that there. That's fantastic. That is so cool. That is so cool. I really am amazed. I am genuinely. This is one of the most startling things. As soon as you said the canals thing, my ears pricked up, and I'm glad they did because this is even more fascinating than I thought it was.
Well, if you want to, we could do it now if you want.
All right, let me just